Welcome into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish along with Tom Vecchio. We got you covered with Major League Baseball action about to throw out the first pitch in about 90 minutes from now. We'll give you previews of all the games. Kyle Soppe will be with us in the house. Also, George Kurtz will also watching everything going on in the WNBA. Plus, of course, the NBA offseason wouldn't be complete unless we had some drama with LeBron James. He still has not signed. If he does during the show, of course, we'll tell you where that is. But plenty to get to here on the program as we enter another week of Major League Baseball, getting closer to the trade deadline. Probably make or break week, I would guess, for several teams in baseball. And here to talk about that and a whole lot more is Tom Vecchio. Tom, great to be with you here on this Monday edition of Game Time Decisions, and pretty big slate in baseball today with the first game starting at 6:40 Eastern, and we'll begin to break those games down as well. What's going on?
I'm doing well. Like you said, we have a huge baseball slate today, which is really just the start of a huge baseball few weeks leading up to the deadline, as you and I have discussed quite a bit at this point. We have some really hot temperatures across the country, and we are looking at some fantastic run-scoring environments. It's 90-plus in Coors Field tonight, which is already a great hitting environment. We have the best offense in baseball. With the Nationals at Coors Field, there should be plenty of scoring left, right, and center in that series between those two, because we know how bad the Nationals pitching staff is when they're at Coors Field. We have some really great pitchers on the mound tonight as well. Like, we have a litany of aces to go through, and we are going to be seeing some fantastic pitching performances, but I also think we're in for a lot of offense tonight in certain spots.
Yeah, and I did look at that pitching matchup in Slate, as you said, and I was noticing a lot of ERAs in the threes tonight. The majority of pitchers that are pitching tonight, of course, you're going to have guys on Sacramento and Colorado and some of those teams where you got to kind of navigate around that. But for the most part, we do have a lot of great starting pitching, so we will break all those games down for you as well. Also, Tom, we officially tie a bow on the World Cup here in 2026. In case you missed it yesterday, right around this time yesterday, it appeared that we'd be headed toward extra time and maybe even some penalty kicks, and Spain ends up taking the World Cup. It's a hot button topic here in the United States today. I think most would agree it was the most popular and most watched and most exciting World Cup ever. But the finale of the World Cup is getting panned, as it probably should. I mean, you saw the Saturday third place game, which was just incredible. I believe 7 goals or 9 goals. I just couldn't keep up. There were so many goals in that one. And then Sunday, you get this dud of a 0-0 until Spain ends up winning it in the end, Tom. So we'll put a bow on that. What was your final assessment of it? As a matter of fact, I think, Chris, if I'm not mistaken, I think I picked Spain on day one to win this thing, which is the only thing I think I've got right here in a couple of weeks. But Spain ended up winning the championship. Messi goes home. What was your takeaway from watching the entire thing, Tom? I feel like we watched it more than ever here in the United States because it was here.
Yeah, we did. I think it was a great step for the popularity of soccer across the board. We do have the European leagues starting in just over a month, which, you know, a lot of people hopefully are tuning into for the first time this year. The finale between Spain and Argentina is all credit to Spain. Argentina looked terrible. There's no other way to put it. Spain dominated the game from the start. The entire time, Argentina did absolutely nothing on offense. They should be absolutely embarrassed by their performance. They should be embarrassed by what happened after the game with the players in the altercation. Spain put up one of the best performances, not just in the finale, but across the entirety of the World Cup throughout the group stage and bracket play. Their defense was phenomenal. They are rightly deserving of the championship. And it's a really nice storyline because they won it, and they will go into hosting the next World Cup in 4 years in 2030 between Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. They are the three nations hosting the next one. So Spain wins it. They'll open up the next one. I think it's a great celebration. They absolutely deserve it. Argentina, terrible.
Yeah, terrible in the end. Messi's run may have come to a close. Of course, he did not win the Golden Boot. That was Mbappe. He ends up winning it. And, you know, he had a great World Cup. I don't think that there's any doubt about that. He was one of the favorites, by the way, to win the Golden Boot. So no surprise that he was the top scorer in the World Cup in 2026. Do you think, Tom, that from watching it this year, that we made progress, forget about on the pitch, it just made progress here in the United States and more people watching? I don't know. I think because it was here, we all watched it. In 4 years from now, It's really hard to say what the environment, by the way, will be with television. I mean, it is possible, Tom, by the way, that a number of matches in 4 years from now will be streaming only. I mean, imagine me 4 years ago telling you that most TV would be streaming. You would have said, Craig, you're crazy. But that's where we're at here in the country. I mean, everyone is streaming SportsGrid 24 hours a day, too. So I wonder, Tom, I don't know that we made progress in that area. I think people got on board heavily because it was here in the States. Spain, you're going to have time differences and things like that. So what is your final opinion on that in terms of where we are as a country embracing soccer? Did it improve from this? Did it get worse? Did it stay the same? Where are you at?
I'm cautiously optimistic that the overall population will be more interested. I'm very, very optimistic that the betting population will be far more interested once the EPL, La Liga, Serie A, the Bundesliga get going in about a month, and they'll roll that into the Champions League, UCL, which is streamed on Paramount. So if you have that, you can watch that. If you have Peacock, you can watch the EPL. If you have ESPN Plus, you can watch La Liga and Bundesliga. So there are options out there. I think more and more people will continue to tune in because they're going to be betting on it because it was here in the United States. Again, if this was in Spain, Morocco, and Portugal this year, I don't know if as many people would be getting on board waiting for the next one.
Yeah, I mean, think about where we were, Tom, 4 years ago, scratching the surface with sports betting being legal again. Prediction markets did not exist. I mean, so many differences. I mean, who even knows where technology is going to be in 2030? We're just so far away from that. But I think it's a fair point to wonder. And I think picking up when you think about it, where Netflix feels that they're in sports, they just took the, of course, Home Run Derby, didn't do well in terms of streaming. Could it be Amazon Prime? Could it be somebody else? As of right now, FIFA's got that contract wide open. It's not like they have a deal in 4 years. They can do anything they want with this. It's sort of like what the NFL wants to be, which is just charge as much money as possible until the government comes in and says, hey, you got a little bit of a monopoly here. You can't do that. But that's kind of what is going on there. Speaking of football, Tom, before we get into some baseball tonight, rookies are reporting all over the National Football League. They'll all be in camp this week. We'll have full training camp starting up next week. And believe it or not, just a couple of weeks away from the very first NFL preseason game here in 2026. College football coming back as well. I know it's always like that week or two in July where things are slow. We didn't get that, Tom, this year, because of soccer, because of the World Cup. We really didn't get that slow time at all. Don't look now. Next week we'll be heavy in on football again.
Yeah, this is really the turning point. I've always thought this was the spot of the summer. We're post All-Star break. We are leading into training camp and or seeing the first training camps begin to open. And then it's the countdown to the Hall of Fame game, which, people are going to want to have action on. They're going to want to be, seeing the impressive rookies. And that's ultimately what I'm interested in, what players are going to be making the rosters, who's going to be beating out what other player for a roster spot, where the rookies are going to be landing, because we all want to derive some type of fantasy football and or betting information from all of that.
Yeah, definitely so. All right, before we take a break here, we'll come back and start previewing the games. What's on your eye tonight? Which games are on your eye tonight? And then we'll go one by one.
Boston hosting the Orioles has to be at the top of the list just based on the way Boston is playing right now. Dodgers Phillies is going to be awesome, not just tonight, but throughout the week with that series. Potential playoff previews. Everyone's going to paint it.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, that's the big story tonight, I think, in baseball is can the Red Sox win again. It's been the story of basically the month of July, and even at the end, going into the All-Star break, Tom, nobody had the Red Sox winning this many in a row, but here they are. You and I were together yesterday, and I was like dancing around the number because I wasn't sure if they were going to win or not, but here they are, 13 straight wins. They haven't done that in, I think it's like 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah, quite an impressive feat, and it's not just them winning, it's about them completely changing the trajectory of their season. Thinking they were going to be sellers at the deadline. Now they're in the mix for the wild card. Where are they going to go, within the next few weeks leading up to August 3rd? So a lot has changed quickly.
Coming up next, we preview every game in Major League Baseball tonight. If we have a lean or if we have a pick, we will give it to you. Also, Kyle Soppe and George Kurtz, those are our guests here on the show tonight. Tom and I here with you from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. This is Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. We'll be right back. Don't go away. No, like, real. I have the rundown, but there's no real, like, all right, welcome back. This is Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. Tom Vecchio and I just chatting about what we're going to chat about here on the show. That's kind of funny here. You caught a little second of that. And so we had a vote and we decided we're going to start off by talking about the New York Yankees taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates tonight. This is a really good matchup because I think you have two teams here that are poised to maybe make some moves at the deadline and get to the postseason. So let's kind of catch you up, Tom, and catch me up here on this matchup here. The Yankees played the Dodgers twice yesterday. I don't ever love a team in that scenario having to play 3 games in approximately 24 hours. That's number one. We also got information yesterday that Aaron Judge is not going to be back with the Yankees anytime soon. He hasn't started baseball activities. Meanwhile, the Pirates are starting to play a little bit better. We know they have the starting pitching. Do you have a lean or an opinion tonight as they open up a 3-game set? Pirates right there in the National League wild card, potentially with a chance to make the postseason. It feels like for the first time in a while.
There are, a few things that come to mind. I'll be honest, I have not bet this game in any capacity. No totals, no sides, no player props, nothing in this one. Number one, this is one of the best prices you'll ever get the Yankees at because when they're at home, they're often booked as very large favorites. But to that point, they're often not winning at home. This year, very simply, 24-22 when they're at home. They're barely above 500 at home. If you've been betting against them at home, you're probably coming out way ahead because, again, they're often booked as favorites. Looking to the Pirates, they're 25-24 away. So based on where the team is, the bullpen was a little bit stressed yesterday between the doubleheader. They're going into it today. You're getting plus money on an underdog that is playing pretty darn well, and you're fading a team that is just factually not performing at home. I would take the Pirates at plus money, or I would pass. I would not lay with the Yankees. I would not play the total. I can see their offense falling flat and the Pirates scoring 4. They win this game 4-2. It sneaks under, but give me the Pirates at plus money.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the Pirates is that if you just went through their games this season, Tom, and bet them first 5, you probably would have won a lot more than you would have lost. Oof. It's been their bullpen that has really blown it a lot for them this season, and you wonder if that's something that they will attack over the next couple of weeks. But should be a good showdown here. There's some comments today made, social media popping around saying, speculating that this is it for Judge in terms of this season, meaning that maybe there's a chance he doesn't come back. Tom, it's really hard to speculate on an injury, but you have to say that the update that we got was like a non-update at the very best, which is that you don't see him coming back anytime soon. I don't know. I'm starting to feel, Tom, that check back in September, have this guy go to AAA, see if he can get in a rehab assignment. If he feels good, you activate him to push for the postseason and get in. Beyond that, I mean, I hate to say it, but beyond that, you're taking a lot of risk with him getting hurt again before the postseason.
Right. You put it best. It's just an update of an update. It's like, we'll update you when there's an update ready, which it amounts to nothing, right? You're just saying, there's nothing new to report. We'll be back in a couple of weeks if there is something new to report. So it's just a giant nothing for me. And it just comes down to the timeline of him being ready, getting that rehab, assignment in, preferably I would like to see that. And then him being ready to go because he has to be ready to go. I'm going to say a darn near 100%, and that's at least with hitting. That doesn't imply that he's going to be playing the field because they could say they bring him back and it's going to be a DH only role, and they could DH him for half of September, and then he's working on the field in the off time, before games. Then he's ready to play the field come October. So it's an update of an update, which means nothing.
Yeah, it didn't mean much yesterday. We did get one piece of information. Those of you who were looking ahead to the Dodgers on Wednesday, in the middle of that doubleheader, they announced that the Dodgers will not have Shohei Ohtani pitching anytime soon, is what they said here. Now, tonight, a little bit of a different scenario is probably the matchup of the week. You've got, certainly Philadelphia with their best pitcher on the mound, minus 142. You talked about getting plus money on the Yankees. How many opportunities would you get plus money on the Dodgers, Tom? Dodgers plus 120 tonight. If I was to guess the rest of the season, Dodgers plus money, and I said they'll be plus money 10 times, you'd probably say no way, under.
Yeah, I would. What I think about this game is largely the same that I thought about the Yankees and the Pirates, but just to a different capacity. We never get plus money on the Dodgers. At best, you're getting close to even-ish money. Even when they played the other day against the Yankees, it was minus 108, minus 110 on both sides. So getting plus 120 in Dodgers is a crazy price. The only time that happens is in game if they fall down in the fifth inning and all of a sudden they're down 3-0. That's you get plus money. But I also make the argument this is one of the best prices you get on Chris Sanchez at home for the Phillies. We often see Sanchez, a Cy Young candidate, arguably 1B, behind Miz being 1A. We often see Chris Sanchez as a minus 200, minus 215 favorite. So, you're going to take from this, I say you, the proverbial you, the viewer, you're going to take from this what you want. If you're going to say, I never get plus money in Dodgers, I'm taking it. Or you're going to say, I get a great price on Chris Sanchez, which I've never gotten before, I'll simply take that. It's pick your poison. It's salt to taste on this one.
6.5. You saw that K prop for Sanchez tonight. Last time we saw him, of course, the All-Star break. And in the All-Star game where he didn't look all that good, he only threw one inning and naturally came out after that. And you could say that was the end of the All-Star game when the American League took a 3-0 lead on Christopher Sanchez in the first inning. All right, so let's go back to the American League. Tom alluded to it earlier. We've got really good pitching matchups here, and don't let the record fool you. Tanner Bybee is pitching very well for the Cleveland Guardians. He is taking on the Minnesota Twins tonight. Let's take a look at the Twins and Guardians here, and you can see that the Twins are minus 130 tonight because Joe Ryan is on the bump for Minnesota. There are reports that Byron Buxton is back tonight. He was on the injured list and, of course, missed the All-Star game and the All-Star break and all of that. But he apparently is back tonight as well. Minnesota minus 132. I'm a little tempted to go the other side here, though, Tom, thinking with Cleveland. I've seen Cleveland play lately. They seem to be, to me, one of the very best teams in a very dark American League this season. I don't know that I can come up with 5 good teams.
I think you could play the Twins in the first 5 because you want to trust Joe Ryan, and that's fine. But you give me a home team as, what'd you say about the Guardians the other day? They kind of like paper cut you to death. They're a pesky team. They're a pesky team. They're going to find ways to win. You give me plus money with the better team, I'm going to say, at home. I will do that. Now, Joe Ryan can cruise through the first 5 and win the first 5 bet with the Twins. But full game, I'm going to take the Guards at home. Between what they have with starting pitching with Bybee, the offense can be lacking at times. But if you can turn it over to that bullpen, which I think everyone agrees is pretty elite, the Guards coming away with plus money is pretty nice.
Yeah, and you look at Tanner Bybee, especially recently, 6 2/3 against Miami, 1 earned run. He got beat up by the White Sox. 4 innings pitched, 6 earned runs. Before that, 7 innings, 2 earned runs against Texas. Before that, 6 shutout innings against the White Sox as well. So Bybee, who had a rough start and doesn't really get any run support, definitely pitching much better. We'll preview the games in Major League Baseball in the Monday slate when we return next on Game Time Decisions.
Come in a lot more better prepared to play than say we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're much further down the list at only 8% right now on Call Sheet, but this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Skubal, and that's going to be something that we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
And welcome back to Game Time Decisions. Less than 90 minutes away from first pitch. First pitch tonight is the game that we just mentioned, Cleveland and Minnesota. I love those 6:40 Eastern starts. Can't get enough of them. Definitely love them here in South Florida when they happen. But as Tom said, kind of likes Ryan first five, likes Cleveland for the game there. All right, let's try and figure out this one. So the Tampa Bay Rays, to me, are the team to beat in the American League. But are they the team to beat, Tom, if they got to go on the road in the postseason? They better win that American League East. That's all I got to say, because they're phenomenal at the Trop. But they leave the Trop and they don't win. Now, they ran into Boston. They're the hottest team in the league. They got swept. And I understand that tonight you got Dylan Cease, the Cy Young favorite in the American League, is on the mound. That's why you see minus 164 there. But Nick Martinez is good, too, for Tampa Bay. I guess, Tom, my concern is the Rays on the road. Have they just built themselves a squad that plays very well? And I was there this year watching games too. They really seem to have things down at Tropicana Field to a T. One of the very best records, I think maybe the most wins, if I'm not mistaken, in the American League at Tropicana Field. But once they leave the Trop, it seems like things go south a little bit. So I guess they're hoping, and Kevin Cash is hoping, that they, at the worst, if I'm not mistaken, if they clinch that first wild card, then they would host the first three games at the Trop. Then they'd have to go on the road there. But anything worse than that, Tom, I would think that they're in some trouble.
That would appear to be how things are unfolding right now. And what's most concerning to me, at least based on this Boston series, which is a 4-game sample size coming out of the All-Star break against a red-hot Red Sox team. Got to put some caveats in here. But the pitching staff is not what I expected it to be. That was, to me, has always been one of the strengths of the Rays, that they can win high scoring, they can win low scoring, but they now have a combination of their pitching staff is bad and they didn't get the offense going. They scored 1 run in one of the games. They scored 0 runs in another game. Now, granted, they scored 9 runs between the other 2 games, but being held to 0 and 1 run in 2 of the games while having bad pitching just is not the Rays formula. It's not the Rays formula, at least on the road. So I have a very, very tough time going back to them. I'd be willing to lay off them this entire series and just wait till they get back home and then go right back to banging the Rays at the friendly confines of Tropicana Field, so to speak.
Yeah, for them, they seem to have things down there. But as Tom mentioned, the reason why the Rays are in the spot this week is because of how hot Boston has played. And I don't know that that's going to change, although this is 2 hot teams facing off with one another. All of a sudden tonight, you look at the Baltimore Orioles, Shane Baz and company, boy, they seem like they got right too, Tom. They put themselves at least back in the conversation. We thought absolute sellers maybe a week ago. I think they've won 7 in a row. Is that correct? 7 wins in a row for them, 13 wins in a row for the Boston Red Sox. So 2 of the longest winning streaks of the major league season. Peyton Tolley, he's been great. He pitches for the Red Sox. I mentioned Baz for Baltimore. But that place is going to be rocking. Everyone is showing up at Fenway now. Not that they don't before, but this is like a historic run that they're on here. This is, as they say, the trend is my friend. I can't go against Boston right now while they're playing like this, Tom. I know it's going to end and the shoe will drop, so to speak. They'll start losing, but I don't know that it is tonight.
So I'm not betting against the Red Sox. I'm not betting on the Orioles, but I do like Peyton Tolley under 6.5 strikeouts. A little bit of juice at minus 150. His strikeout rate is solid this year at 25.5%, but you look over this last 10-game sample size from him, and it is varied wildly. Some games up at 33, 34, up at 46% in the most recent start, which was a short outing. But he has other outings, Craig, where we're looking at 8, 10, 12% strikeout rate. And because it's beautiful hitting weather in Fenway Park, which is already a great hitter's park to begin with, he's going up against a red-hot Orioles team. I'm not sure if the strikeouts are going to be there tonight. I could see him getting to 4, getting to 5, maybe even getting to 6. He gives up a couple of runs along the way, but I think the pitch count could be an issue for him tonight. I don't see him pushing his 7, 8, 9 strikeouts tonight against this Orioles lineup, which, granted, is not amazing, but they're hot right now.
Do you sort of buy Baltimore being back in it here, Tom? I had the same feeling a little bit that I did with Boston. I still don't know that the Orioles have enough pitching. Are they just on a good run? Or let's just call their number 81 wins at the end of the year. You think they can hit that?
Maybe, but I think this is a little bit smoke and mirrors. They beat the Royals, and then they beat the Astros to get on this win streak. Like they lost the series versus the Cubs. They took the last game versus the Cubs. They swept the Royals. Congrats. And then they beat the Astros, a team that you and I both think are not good. So it's like they're winning games, but is it against the best quality opponent? No.
That's part of the dynamic always in baseball. All right, so what we'll do here is we'll take a quick timeout on game time decisions. Folks, when we come back next, guess who's back on the mound tonight in Milwaukee, coming off a sweep? Boy, brutal loss from my Marlins yesterday. I got to say, of all the games this season, that may have been the one that stuck it to me the most, watching the Brewers beat the Marlins. But that's right. The Marlins didn't even have to face The Miz. The Miz is back on the mound tonight. He is pitching. We'll go through his props. And we'll also talk about the biggest line of the night. Brewers are over $2 on the Mets tonight behind Miz at that park at American Family Field. Tom and I will be right back. Don't go away.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list than only, 8% right now on Call Sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. If you're looking for a big dog tonight, let's bring in Tom to bark on those New York Mets. Boy, Mets are in the news for, I don't want to say the wrong reasons again, but unfortunately for them, not what we thought at the end of July, which is taking a look at some teams to basically trade players to. Now, there was a report that said that the Mets were wide open for business except for a handful of players. Today, that was walked back with a mention of Francisco Lindor not going to be traded. So you know what? I'm going to throw all that away, and we'll let that play out, Tom. I'm not going to speculate on honestly silliness here, because no one can even take Lindor's contract. Soto's contract's almost impossible to take. The Mets would trade anything they could to start over next season. That's the way that they would be headed. But we're on a one-game scenario here tonight, and the Mets are taking on the Brewers, and Jacob Misiorowski has not pitched in a while. Did not pitch in the All-Star break, did not pitch last week. He was scheduled to pitch. He was scratched because of his Sunday start. So here we are, Tom. What do you think about this? This is a really long layoff for a pitcher. Generally speaking, guys who have this long of a layoff don't come back smoking. They usually come back struggling. His K-prop is 8.5 tonight. I could see him fly over that, but I got to tell you, got some interest in the Mets keeping this close tonight. Don't think they're getting blown out.
Okay, so I have an alternate way to view this game. And, 205, 215, whatever it's going to end up closing at exactly for, Misiorowski at home versus the Mets, I think is an appropriate price. It is a very high price. It doesn't necessarily account for what you mentioned, the long layoff, dealing with something. Craig, Misiorowski right now is minus 360 to win the NL Cy Young. Chris Sanchez is plus 600. if you think Miz could struggle tonight, you should be looking to invest in Chris Sanchez at plus 600 to win the NL Cy Young. Because if he goes out there and puts up a good performance against the Dodgers and Mizorowski struggles against the Mets or just isn't himself in some capacity, that plus 600 number on Chris Sanchez is not going to be there come later tonight or tomorrow morning. It could be down to plus 400 and Miz can come back to closer to even money. So if you're willing to buy into Miz struggling in some capacity, I wouldn't bet on the Mets because I still think the Brewers could win that game with their bullpen. I would look to an alternate route, and that's Chris Sanchez, Cy Young future.
Yeah, the other thing about the Brewers, too, is that, yes, when they get to the 6th and 7th and they throw, I mean, Ashby has not been as good as he was earlier in the season, but Ashby, Uribe, and McGill, it's usually game over. But the reason why is because the games are close. The Brewers are, they generally are in a lot of one-run games coming back to win games after the 7th inning. And so I wonder even getting the Mets at like even money plus a run and a half. Maybe that's even a way to look at this game tonight. But so I think the Mets are going to be in this one. I don't think they're going to get blown out by the Brewers tonight. I just don't see that. All right. Meanwhile, this put up or shut up time for the San Diego Padres. They got a set coming up with the Braves this week, and then I'll see them in Miami this weekend. The Braves are light favorites here, minus 134. Padres plus 114. They've been tinkering with the roster and the lineup a little bit. The Padres, Tom, have struggled all season long. It just nothing that they've done has turned to gold. Usually this is when they get kind of hot at the end of the year and get themselves in. But I don't know, I kind of feel like the Braves are going to take this series in some way. Do you think that starts tonight?
I do. Ultimately, I have no faith in the Padres. I don't think people should be looking at a extreme recency bias of what they did yesterday, scoring nearly 20 runs against the Royals. They lost that series versus the Royals, which is embarrassing to say the least. The Padres have one of the worst offenses in baseball. The Braves are seemingly finding their footing. I think they are in a spot to really gain some positive momentum between the performances that they put up against a decent Texas team. They're getting the offense going. Drake Baldwin looks amazing over the past few days, and reports are that Acuna is going to be coming back at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever it is at the end of this week. I think that this is the spot that the Braves, I'm not going to say fully turn the corner, but it's a spot for them to get back on the right foot in a very tight NL East and NL wild card race overall. I like the Braves to win the series. I think they take 2 out of 3.
Yeah, and Bryce Elder will pitch. She's been up and down for the Braves. J.P. Sears had a really good start against L.A. a couple of weeks ago, but beyond that, his ERA is pushing like 6 for the season. This is not San Diego's best starter, and here we are 4 games into the second half of the season. So Braves in first place, Padres still trying to get themselves back into wild card position because everybody is just too far back of the Los Angeles Dodgers. All right, let's take a look at another matchup tonight. The Chicago Cubs are playing good baseball. Seems like they're cruising toward the postseason, even despite all of the issues that they've had to starting pitching. They made a trade over the weekend to get Aaron Savali, who's pitched for several teams in the last several years. Detroit at Chicago tonight. Not a lot of faith in the Cubbies, though, as we're looking at FanDuel's line here at minus 118. But the scary part about this one tonight, Tom, it's been the summer at Wrigley. Look at the total tonight. 11.5. Usually when I see totals like this in Chicago, I either go over or I don't play the game at all because I have no idea what's going to happen tonight.
We have hot temperatures. We have wind blowing out 15, 16 miles per hour to essentially straightaway center field tonight. And like you said, when the Cubs, who are an absolute roller coaster of a hot and cold team, when they're hot, they can score 10 runs by themselves. I'm going to say especially only at home, because they can't score on the road apparently, but only at home they could put up 8-10 runs in a hurry. And Detroit's got a good enough offense with good enough hitters against Tyone, who I haven't been convinced about in years, that they could probably get 6 of their own. So to see this game end 10-6, 8-6 on either side wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't play the money line. I play the total and I play it over. I think we're going to see some offense tonight.
The Cubs are 7-3 in their last 10, Tom, and they have played better at home, as you said. Their run differential is also very good, but they do trail Milwaukee by 6 games. Not impossible to come back from that. But even though they're 13 games over 500, we were here a couple of years ago, Tom, with the Cubs, and they completely fell off and didn't make the postseason. I got to tell you, there's something not about. I don't think they're going to crash and burn, but there's something about the Cubs that worries me, I guess, if they get into the postseason and they host a 3-game wild card series like that. That's probably one of the teams that I would wonder if they would find themselves out after a series like that. My trust factor is so low with a streaky team like that.
It really comes down to they have, like, Imanaga was great to start the year, then he kind of imploded. Are you going to trust him in a game one? And how quickly are you going to pull him? Are you going to trust Matthew Boyd, who has been up and down? The pitching staff isn't healthy. I would say this: if the Cubs were in a 3-game series at home in the playoffs, I would be very interested in fading them, because I would assume that we know that the Cubs are a public team. We know that they're going to draw interest just because of the fan base and the history. They're going to draw a good amount of public money. I would be very interested in just flatly fading the Cubs in that series just because I don't have faith in them. If they're not hot at the right time, the hitting is the only thing that's going to carry them, because the pitching staff is not nearly a top-tier team. I would take almost any other playoff-bound team against the Cubs, especially if the Cubs are at home. The lines would be out of whack for the opposing team, the road team. Give me the road team in that circumstance.
Yeah, I think we're going to get there. I think there's a chance of that, whoever that third wild card is, or they may end up having to play the division winner, the third division winner in the National League too. So if my math is correct here, it could end up being the Atlanta Braves, or maybe even the Philadelphia Phillies in that spot. So we'll see. All right, so an ace back on the mound tonight, and it's been a long time, Tom. So again, this is one of those huge layoffs. Not a surprise, maybe more of a surprise that Jacob deGrom of the Texas Rangers had been healthy for the entire season. But calling it what it is, there was some concern. They've held him back. He hasn't pitched since July the 7th. That's a long time. The Texas Rangers are huge favorites tonight as minus 168. Even the last time out when deGrom pitched, it was just 5 innings. I feel confident in Texas. I don't know why I do tonight. I think they're playing a little bit better. And I also think that the Rangers, Tom, wouldn't throw deGrom out there in a situation where they thought this could be another one and done. Like, the Mizorowski thing's a little mysterious to me. With deGrom, this just kind of felt like, hey, let's shut this guy down. We know he's not going to be able to make it through the entire season. He never does. Let's get preventative. And the odds are kind of telling me that, too. I like the way the Rangers are playing, at least lately.
I like the Rangers. I like them tonight. I have a future on the Rangers since the beginning of the season to make the playoffs. So I think it's great that they are being cautiously optimistic with deGrom. They want to shut him down before the break, give him that extra rest. I think they come through. I don't think deGrom gets through the game cleanly, though. He gives up 2-3 earned runs. He still gets 7 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts. I think that's what we're going to see tonight. They come away with the win, though. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's probably a 5-inning start would be a guess for Jacob deGrom tonight. We'll be back with more right after this.
Come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're much further down the list at only 8% right now on Call Sheet, but this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle, and that's going to be something that we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Always fun to catch up with George Kurtz here of SportsGrid, and certainly George has his eye on the baseball season. I know he's also getting ready like I am for fantasy football season. The month of August is right around the corner. Very exciting time, but we still got some time till we get there. George, welcome to the show. Me, you, Tom Vecchio hanging out here for a few minutes. And George, what a season it has been in baseball. Sort of nobody wants to win. That would be my summary of the baseball season. The Dodgers, of course, are in great shape, and the Braves are playing very well, and Milwaukee, and I could probably go a couple of teams deep. But George, 6-7 teams out of 30 are like great, and then you got 20 teams that still feel like they're in it. What's going on this year?
Yeah, you're sort of saying the whole league. The American League's a quagmire. I mean, everyone's the same, right? I mean, who's the best team in the American League? Is it the Rays? They just got demolished by the Red Sox. All right, the Yankees, too many injuries. They got all sorts of problems here. I'm a Mariners guy, Craig, but they can't hit. They just can't. They've got their own problems. And listen, if the White Sox win the American League Central, I may be done with baseball, right? No one saw that coming here. So it's going to be very hard to pick a team to come out of it. I'm still of that belief. If the Mariners can add that bat by the August 3rd trade deadline, I'm going to like them with that starting staff and the bullpen they have there. I just don't see the Rays making any big moves at the deadline there. The National League is really, let's go with Harrison from Milwaukee. I kind of like Milwaukee a whole bunch, guys, but once Kyle Harrison had that injury, is he going to come back and be the guy we saw the first 3 months, or is he not that guy anymore? Mizorowski, we'll see what's up with him as well. I think he's going to start tomorrow for the Brewers, his first start of the second half.
Now, George, Miz is starting tonight, but George, if I remember correctly, you are a fan of betting on streaks. So I want to know where you are at with the Red Sox. Like, have you been rolling the streak over, left, right, and center day in and day out just because they continue to win? And what are your thoughts on them tonight? Because the Orioles also come in a little bit hot, although they've beaten some lesser opponents in the past few games.
Yeah, I'm a streak player. Talked about this over the weekend with Scott and Brady here. Yeah, I'm going to keep betting Boston until they lose. All right. I haven't bet everywhere they won 12, 13 games. I'm not 12, 13 in. I'm about 8 in. So I've won 8 straight games with them, and I'm going to keep going here. And not every bet has been massive, by the way. All right. They've just been easy bets, though. And I'll play it again tonight. Orioles, by the way, Roachman put on the IL today. Basalo's not going to play either. They're a little weakened. Today. Suarez could come back for the Red Sox tomorrow, by the way, so that'll lengthen that rotation. And by the way, I guess they're not going to be traders at the deadline now, which we were all looking forward to 2 weeks ago. Sonny Gray going to be out there and such. But yes, I'm on the Red Sox tonight, and I don't listen. It's blind to me. I don't even look at who they're playing. If they're playing with Dodgers and Yamamoto, I would still be betting the Red Sox tonight.
I think you got to let it ride, George. But you didn't make enough money. You're still here working with us, so you need a few more wins so you can retire and you don't have to appear on game time decisions tonight. All right. So speaking of the Brewers, let's talk about where that division stands. So you got Milwaukee. They look amazing, George. I watched them this weekend. The Marlins don't want to see them again if they don't have to for a long time. Hopefully not for years, but next year they're going to have to. Then you got the Cubs, who are really hard to trust, but they seem to be playing good baseball. You have the Cardinals. You have the Pirates. It finally feels like the Reds are about to wave the white flag, but you still have 4 teams, George, in that division in the Central that are fighting, and I know that you're going to get an up-close and personal look when you pop on the tube tonight, seeing the Pirates take on the Yankees.
The Pirates, all right, we know their offense is a little lacking, especially without O'Neal Cruz, but you got Skeens, Jared Jones, who's pitching very well, Chandler, Ashcraft. I mean, the pitching's there for Pittsburgh. The starting pitching's there for Pittsburgh. It's everything else they still need to work on. But in some ways, the starting pitching is the toughest part to get down here. So I said their future does look bright as long as ownership doesn't get cheap, or at least not too cheap. All right, but I do like their future there. I think Milwaukee is the class of that division. Not sure, Craig, I understood the Lance McCullers trade. I know it was a salary dump by Houston. They really didn't give up anything, but what are you expecting from this guy? He had a 7 ERA, and that was with Houston. I don't know what you're expecting him over there in the National League. I guess it's just to get you by the next couple of weeks until a deadline. You can fortify yourself there. Cubs, can they make that big move? Because they need pitching, right? They'll take anybody. Craig, can you still throw? And I know. How about your son's playing ball? You want to try out for Chicago? They need help. They need a lot of help. There are a lot of pitching, but there's not too many teams. Who's going to be sellers at the deadline? Not too many teams. Hell, Scooble may not even be out there anymore if Detroit gets silly.
Well, One of the more interesting matchups on tonight's slate, at least I think, and maybe I'm just a little bit of a sicko, would be Nats Rockies, the best offense in baseball, going to Coors Field where it's 90 plus degrees. We got 11.5 total. Also, hey, we got one of the worst pitching staffs in baseball at Coors Field with the Nats. So how are you approaching this game? Do you play the 11.5 total? Because that is super high and it's juiced to the over.
Well, you're not playing the under. So you're taking the over, or you're leaving it alone, right? I mean, you're never taking an under there. I'm going to go. I think this is going to be a good in-game over. The Yankees should be very thankful that they played the Washington Nationals bullpen the weekend before the All-Star break, right? Because they won all 3 of those games, 8th inning or later. Because the Washington Nationals bullpen is terrible. They're all soft throwers. Doesn't seem like today's guys, in today's bullpen, everyone's throwing 110 miles an hour or faster, right? They may not have control, but they're throwing hard. Everybody in the Nationals bullpen throws 91, 92. They're all soft throwers. So I think that's making attack us in game overs as well here. The Rockies can beat up on that bullpen. I'm on the over. Impossible not to play the over. Chicago, Washington. Washington can really hit.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Goodman, I think he hit 3 home runs yesterday. And if you didn't watch the game, you would think, oh, they probably won big. No,
Nope.
It's not enough in Colorado. It doesn't happen. All right, let's get to a couple other matchups here. First time since you mentioned Mizorowski, I think maybe even one that's flying under the radar tonight, George, is another Jacob. Jacob deGrom starts for the first time since my little watch here says July the 7th. So that's a full, I don't know, almost 3 weeks of no deGrom. Rangers are minus 168 here tonight. I feel like they made a preventative move there, George. Tom and I were talking, and my comment was, I think they got ahead of this saying, you know what, this dude is not throwing 180 innings and making 30 starts. Let's just hit it now. Let's hit the button and let him rest a little bit. I think that's all they did. And Skip Schumacher pretty good with his pitchers too. So I would imagine that Texas probably in good shape, and they're playing better.
So the White Sox, right? They're playing the Sox here, but Eric Fede's going for the Sox. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about DeGrom. I wouldn't have any DeGrom bets as strikeout totals. He is coming back from the glute injury, right? That's why he missed a start or 2 there. So I don't trust that he'll go deep into the game, Craig. I want him to. He's on a couple of fantasy teams of mine, so I need him to go deep into the game. Need a W there from you, Jacob. Can you get me a W, please? But I wouldn't have any individual bets on Jacob himself, though. But I do like the Rangers to win the game. I'm going to leave the total alone here, though. I just feel like the Rangers are going to score some runs tonight. I think I could take the Rangers team total over. I could be talking to that in the next couple of hours.
All right, George. Well, enjoy the rest of your week. It's always great catching up with you. I know your fantasy football hat probably on for some best ball leagues, but get ready. In about a month, it's time to hit the fantasy football button here at SportsGrid 2. We'll see you then. Have a great day. Welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. As we get ready to wrap up this hour, we got baseball coming your way in the second hour, 6:40 Eastern, first game on the board. Tom and I will give you some live action updates when that happens. And then, of course, we have in-game live, if I'm not mistaken, at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully I got that right. Okay, I got it right. Okay, as many of you know, I have not made a ton of appearances here on Game Time Decisions. Normally I'm on before the lights go down because I'm old, but that's okay. But I'm here tonight from 5 to 7. I'll be here tomorrow, and I'll be here on Wednesday also. And so get a little taste of baseball with me throughout the week. Okay, so what games do we have left here that we have not discussed? Oh, I see one. The Cincinnati Reds take on the Seattle Mariners. When is it going to click for the Mariners, Tom? It's got to start soon. Minus 146 tonight against the Reds. Certainly, I think Seattle's a good team. They have not shown it all season long. I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting for them to pop above 500 and just fight the Rangers right down to the finish. I'm starting to think, though, that's not going to happen. Now, trade deadline is coming. Mariners, always were waiting for them to make the big move. They sort of, get to the goal line, and then they're like, nah, we'll stop here and kick the field goal at the 1. At the trade deadline, that's always what they do. Is this the year that they're going to, finally go for it? It's got to be frustrating for their fans.
It really does. And, again, I don't want to say that they missed their window, but I thought last year was the year for them really to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers, essentially. I thought they could have beaten the Tigers, should have gotten past them and the Blue Jays, all things considered. I think the chips are stacked against them this year, where you need to make a big move. You need Julio Rodriguez to come back healthy. You need Cal Raleigh to start doing something, because what he's doing right now is less than nothing. And you need to make an addition at the deadline. I think there's just too much for them to overcome. Could they limp into a wild card just because the AL is pretty terrible overall? Sure. And could you say that their pitching staff would be the best or one of the best in the entire AL postseason if they were to get there? Absolutely. But I have no faith in them to score any amount of runs. Now, as for tonight's matchup, George Kirby at minus 146 seems like a pretty darn fair price, but I have no faith that they're going to score any runs. I don't think too much of Andrew Abbott. I thought last year was a bit of an aberration for him. I think he's overperforming this year. His ERA is 4.1 or 4.111, like whatever it is. He's still overperforming based on his xFIP. So I like George Kirby, but I don't like that price at minus 146. I would wait for a better in-game number.
Yeah, and the thing is, and now it's starting to really pile on, unfortunately. I thought Cal Raleigh was the MVP of the league last year. I did. You look at statistically, we still have 2 months to go, and I don't want to dismiss that because it's not fair to him. But if this trend continues, I don't know the last time, and I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment here, Tom, that you go from almost winning the MVP to being statistically one of the very worst players in baseball. I mean, Tom, that does not happen in the history of the game very often. And it's happening right now with him.
It is. And I think it's just, last year was a magical season and the expectations coming in were so high. You couple that with an injury. Again, the prisoner of the moment is like, well, how could he possibly do this? Like, well, we got to probably take everything into context more realistically and then evaluate it from there. But they need a lot of help, the Mariners, that is. And he's a piece of that.
I think he's hurt. That's my best guess. I mean, because you look at the years that he had before last year, they were good too. They weren't 50 home runs good, but they were 25, 30 home runs good. So I'm going to guess that something's wrong with him. Now, this is an interesting one for me, Tom, and I would ask everyone to keep an eye on this team. That is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They play the A's. The A's are horrendous. Look at where Arizona is in the standings. Look at their odds to make the postseason right now. What would happen if Arizona was to knock the doors off the A's? The Diamondbacks are hot. They played well to the All-Star break. They're playing well out of the All-Star break. You know that they're going to get aggressive and make some moves. And I wonder, Tom, if they start getting healthier and they start getting better a little bit. And look, everyone knows I'm pulling for the Marlins. This is my team here. This is the team that I'm on the broadcast. But this is the team that I'm scared of. This is the one. Arizona, don't let them because they have experience before, Tom, at the end of the season, getting hot. No one had them going to the World Series. They battled Texas. They didn't win in the World Series, but they ran through the National League. So nice little soft couch series this weekend in Arizona for them. I wonder what the odds would look like if they sweep the A's, and the A's are just, finally won a game, but they're playing terrible.
Yeah, it is certainly an interesting and pivotal matchup for the Diamondbacks that kind of do need to get the ball rolling. I will say specifically in this game, I like Shea Langoliers for 2+ hit run RBI combo. It's -139. He's going up against Mitch Bratt for the Diamondbacks. He's making his third career start. He only went 3 innings in each of his first 2 starts. Langoliers is mashing lefties, and I'm really not too worried about the Diamondbacks bullpen when it's all said. I know they're doing better than they were at the beginning of the year, but Langoliers 2+ HRR -139.
No Nick Kurtz, and the A's said no baseball activities for Nick Kurtz. And as things go on, would the A's consider not playing Nick Kurtz in the final couple months of the season if they fall out? Interesting question. We'll be back with more game time decisions next.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're much further down the list at only 8% right now on Kyle Sheet, but this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle, and that's going to be something that we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. Man, tough news here for the Marlins, having lost 6 games in a row and have just placed All-Star Max Meyer on the injured list with a neck strain. So this weekend when Miami plays the Padres, they're either going to have to go with somewhat of a bullpen game or call up a spot starter. They got a lot of options there, but definitely not something that they want to see, and especially having lost 6 games in a row for Miami after having this incredible run in June and July. So I'll be on the broadcast this weekend and on the sideline. Hopefully the Marlins can make the best of a situation that's gone south here over the last couple of weeks. All right, Tom, let's get to some other games and preview some other games, and let's take a look at the Cardinals and Angels tonight. You and I both felt the same way about the Cardinals at the beginning of the season, and then in April, and then in May, and then in June and July. They just have not fallen down, but the odds makers just keep pounding them. The Angels are favored tonight over the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't know how they've gotten it done. I guess if I just took the stats of Jordan Walker and I threw them at you, Tom, and you didn't know anything, and then I said they call up this kid J.J. Weatherholt, and I threw those at you too, you'd be like, wow, maybe St. Louis isn't as bad as we thought. But they've still been better than that. Do you have a lean tonight on this game between the Angels and Cardinals?
Not just a lean, a pick. I'm on the Cardinals money line, and this is not so much a bet on the Cardinals as really just a bet against the Angels. I don't think the Angels are good. I think, again, as we've discussed on many shows, as we said all year, I didn't think the Cardinals were going to be this good, and they've surprised me. They're coming off a tough series versus the Diamondbacks. Frankly, I'll just take them in this bounce back spot at essentially even money. I don't think too highly of Kyle Leahy. I think he's overperforming a lot of his stats. Jose Soriano, if he still has some type of name brand recognition that's giving us a decent line on the Cardinals, I'll take it, because Soriano has come crashing back down to earth after what was granted a very electric start to the season, a very impressive start. He's come crashing back down to earth. Their bullpen is horrendous for the Angels. And I'll take Weatherholt and Burleson and Jordan Walker at the top of that lineup. They get some offense going tonight against the Angels. Give me them on the money line, -108.
All right, fair enough. You're right. Soriano has not pitched the same way in June and July that he did in April and May, but just credit to Soriano just for even pitching that well, I would say, in April and May. Maybe some team could take a look at him and maybe the Angels make a trade, but got no interest in particularly for me in this game tonight. All right, the one game that we hit on earlier in the show, let's dive back into it a little bit because we didn't go extensively in it if anybody's been with us for the full hour here. That would be the Nationals and Colorado Rockies. Tom, it seems like you have some vested interest in this one, watching the weather here, watching the total here in this one as well. Boy, the Rockies yesterday, was it Feltner that pitched yesterday, and he gave up immediately like 7 home runs or something like this. And Tom, the thing for me is kind of funny is you look at the total 11.5, and look, I've been around baseball for a really long time. The biggest mystery to me is how the Rockies, again, no disrespect to people in Denver, how do they get 25,000-30,000 a night to go and watch that? And generally speaking, most of the years, not all, remember they had a World Series season, they had a great postseason run at one point. But how do they sit through this year after, and not just like 5,000 people, like 30,000 people still show up and they bring their families and they love watching Rockies game. I mean, this has got to be the best sports town in America.
I would say, as for the fans of why they go, the whole, I don't want to say the hilarity of it, because that's putting in a negative light, but it is entertainment and it's affordable, right? You could get a whole series of tickets for 4 tickets for under 50 or $75, which you probably can't find in too many places. That's one part of it. I do have a little bit of a vested interest in this for various reasons. One, really happy that I just got Harry Ford on an NFBC team, him and Curtis Mead. So I'm expecting some big offense. I'm really hoping for some big offense out of them. You just mentioned that Max Meyer is on the IL, lost him on this NFBC team. So I need some players to step up, and seeing some offense for the Nats in this amazing hitting environment would really help me. So I have a vested interest. Again, I'm looking towards an in-game over, as George Kurtz alluded to. If I can get that at 10.5 or 9.5, we start off the first 2 innings a little bit slow, that's where I'm going to be looking.
Let's go over to Washington here for a minute, Tom. Surprisingly, I think for most, including me, best offense in Major League Baseball this season, worst bullpen in Major League Baseball this season. Starting pitching has been okay. They have one incredible pitcher, Foster Griffin, who they signed. Great job by the front office. Tom, they have a choice here. I think the choice is pretty easy. You got to trade Foster Griffin next week or the week after and get something back here, because even if the Nationals were to somehow sneak in to any postseason picture, we know they're not going far. Are the Nationals like this far ahead of schedule to you? Are they having a lucky season? You look at their run differential, you're like, should they really be a 500 team? But they've had their moments where they played well, and 1 through 5 of that lineup, Garcia and Wood and some of the others, I mean, they mash. You mentioned Mead and some others too. A very surprising offensive lineup. Abrams too. I don't want to miss him.
Right. Yeah, I would say they're ahead of schedule, and I honestly think the best course is, you talked about Foster Griffin. I think Kate Cavalli is super solid for them, but the name that has come up for a lot of teams in terms of their trade target is Luis Garcia. So if you could trade those 2 pieces, I think it's about retooling and preparing for next year. And that really means getting some bullpen help in any capacity. And whether they are prospects, whether it's and maybe it's a pitcher that doesn't look good on the surface, but has some great underlying metrics. You've got to remember, their GM is 33, 34, very, very young front office that they turn things over to in the offseason. So maybe there's something analytically that they like in some under the radar reliever. And if you could trade away a Luis Garcia or Foster Griffin to bring in relief help, prospects, or other pitchers, they should be preparing for next season. They're not going to make it this year. It's been a fun season, but they need to start improving the foundation before they start to actually compete. And a bullpen is a vital part of that.
Yeah, definitely so. And you can see some of those teams ahead of schedule. The White Sox are another one of those teams. They seem to be getting it done in the back end of the bullpen. I just don't think Washington, quite frankly, figured they would be in this spot. And so therefore, there's no reason to really add. It's probably just subtraction or anything else, but we'll see. Anything can happen. Still a long way to go, but they got to make a decision here by August the 3rd. We did not cover one game, and that was by design for me here, because I'm like looking and scrolling here on my little scroller. Do we have to do Kansas City and San Francisco? You and I mentioned this game yesterday. Is this the most anonymous game here on the board? I think it is, because if you think about it, Tom, the Diamondbacks are playing for something against the A's. The Mariners are playing for something against the Reds. The Nationals are kind of technically in it, they're not out. They're 40-40 or whatever they are. I mean, this is a meaningless game here. Meaningful for the players. And I wonder, with this high total here of 10.5, the Royals pitching, Tom, what has happened to this pitching staff? Take a look at the bullpen. I mean, you talk about bad bullpens. Every dude has an ERA of 5 or 6. The Giants have had their little runs here and there. I think they got to make changes after the season. At least we know that they're sellers. At least we know that Kansas City is sellers. But you talk about watching games on the big screen, like when I'm watching all the games at once, when I'm not working on the broadcast. This is one where I'm either it's very small or I just push it to the side. I got no interest in this game tonight.
It's a 10.5. It is hot and humid in Kansas City. We are dealing with fantastic hitting weather. We are dealing with two pitching staffs that just seemingly don't have it. This is a spot for some offense. Listen, here's the simplest way to put it, as you alluded to. You don't have to bet this game. Right? There are other better, more interesting games that have actual stakes that you could be looking to find at least somewhat of an angle. This is approaching week 17, week 18, Craig, in the NFL. It's you don't have to bet every game. You can actually find something that teams are actually going to operate rationally, because you just want to keep things in somewhat of a normal range of outcomes. Anything could happen in this series. If this game ended 15-10, I wouldn't be surprised. That's how bad the pitching could be, combined with the hitting weather that we have at Kauffman. You got to remember, they brought in the fences this year. Didn't turn out too well for them. It's a horrible thing for their bullpen, but it didn't turn out too well for their offense. So I would say play the over and play the plus money on both sides. The Giants right now are plus 102. If the Royals are plus money tomorrow night, just play them. Play the plus money and play the over. Don't actually bet heavy units on this game.
Don't feel like doing that tonight. You don't have to talk me into that one tonight. I want to take a look at the current Cy Young Award odds. That's something that we haven't covered yet. I want to take a look at some futures here. We'll do that next here on Game Time Decisions, and so make sure you stick around with us. We got plenty more to come right after this break. Don't go away.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're much further down the list at only 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle, and that's going to be something that we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. And I want to take a look at the National League Cy Young Award odds, as Tom and I are here with you for the next 45 minutes or so. And then naturally, in-game live takes over, live action around the league. So it's kind of cut and dry here at this point for me. I have 3 or 4 guys, Tom, that are in it. And the one that I think that we can eliminate at this point, actually, there's now 2 I think we can eliminate at this point based on the news that I just heard today. So let's do that first. So Shohei Ohtani, it was announced yesterday by the Dodgers that he is not going to pitch anytime soon. So we would be looking at later in the year, maybe not at all, Tom, maybe just in the postseason, maybe even as a relief pitcher. Who knows? So I think we could put him out of the mix. And then the other name, obviously, there, if the Marlins the Marlins did just place Max Meyer on the injured list with a neck issue.
Right.
And reading some of the comments here, it looks like he's going to LA to get this checked out. Not that he was a favorite, but you could probably eliminate his chances, I think, from that list too. So let's throw that back up there, Chris, and let's take a deeper dive here and see if we can parse through some of it. So I don't think Brandon Ashcraft has any shot. I don't think Jesus Luzardo or Skeens do also. But here's what I would say. Yamamoto on up. And the reason why I'm going to include Yamamoto, Tom, is now that Ohtani is done, there's no splitting votes, right? So there's like a very slim chance, but there's an outside chance. By the way, who pitched better than Yamamoto the other day in recent memory? Nobody. He pitched fantastic this weekend. So I think it's probably a 2 or 3 player race, but it's still too early. We're not even in August. I can't eliminate anyone. And by the way, Chris Sale looks nice and juicy there for me at 8-1 too. This guy's fantastic. I mean, the Miz is minus 360. I mean, we literally just saw an all-star go on the IL. We saw Mizorowski not pitch. You brought up a really good point tonight. Like, if something flips out with Miz tonight, I mean, we could be looking at him and Sanchez with even money after this game tonight. This may be the best odds you get.
Right, on Sanchez. And, the question that I keep thinking about in terms of Miz is he's already missed time. The Brewers are dealing with a pretty cushy 6-game lead in the the NL Central ahead of the Cubs. They're pretty comfortably in that spot. Are the Cubs really that much of a threat to them, considering the injuries that the Cubs have on their pitching staff? Now, would this cause them to, again, back off of Miz in terms of innings, which he has surpassed in terms of his career innings pitched compared to last year? He has blown through that number faster than we anticipated. Do they ease off of him for one extra start? Do they have some type of 6-man rotation where they maybe skip another start? Does that put Chris Sanchez in the potential driver's seat to vault up to being a co-favorite instead of Miz at minus 360 and Chris Sanchez at plus 600? That's the only argument I would make for Chris Sanchez. I'm not necessarily making it against Mizorowski. I want to say, what happens if things do occur with Mizorowski and they ease off him? Who does that benefit? It benefits Chris Sanchez.
I think it does, and he is 6-1, and coming out of May, he was the Cy Young favorite. You may remember Sanchez did not give up a run in the month of May, but the season is not determined and an award is not determined in the month of May either. As far as some of the other players on that list, I mean, Tom, to think that Yamamoto, who pitched as well as any pitcher has pitched in the postseason in a long time, it felt like his first start or second start of the season, whenever that was, there was some nervousness, that maybe some lingering effects from pitching so deep into the season and so much into the postseason. But he was not even on the board a couple of weeks ago, and he is shot right up there. I see Chase Burns a little bit above him. I'm probably more bullish on Yamamoto than I am Burns. I think what I'm trying to say here is I'm going to keep an eye on Yamamoto's next couple of starts. Guy throws another 9-inning or 8-inning, no earned run. This guy's going to be moving up a lot.
He would be moving up. I would say Yamamoto, like the gut, reaction I have is like Yamamoto's probably a better prediction market option than betting market option, just because his number can improve based on a couple great starts, and therefore he can get in and out on a prediction market. You don't always get cash out options on a future like the Cy Young, and then I'm gonna always be worried that the Dodgers are just gonna shut players down. So no matter how well Yamamoto's doing, the innings will fail to meet what we see from Sanchez or Sale or whomever, because they'll ease off of him and Ohtani, as we've already seen happen. So Yamamoto, I believe it could happen. I just don't love the innings potential, or lack of innings potential, I should say.
Zach Wheeler was also there. Philadelphia Phillies certainly have one of the better rotations in baseball if you also consider that Aaron Nola has his season. You throw out anytime Sanchez, Wheeler, Luzardo. If that doesn't slam the point home, Tom, look at that. Out of the first 10 guys with odds, you got 3 guys on the Philadelphia Phillies. That's why they're going to be really tough to beat in October.
Yeah, it really is. And they still keep saying that they need to add more pitching and one more hitter. They have a great back end of the bullpen with Duran, one more pitcher, maybe starter and reliever, and one more hitter. That's what's really going to put the Phillies in contention. Because as I will continuously say, it's not about winning your division. It's about making it to the postseason with a lineup that can beat the Dodgers. That's the only thing that matters. I think the Brewers are great, but they're not good enough to beat the Dodgers. They need more hitting at the bottom of their lineup to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers. Because if they have more hitting, Craig, as you continue to allude to, 6, 7, 8, 9 innings for the Brewers are phenomenal, but you got to get there with the lead, and you need more offense to do so. So the Phillies need pitching, the Brewers need hitting. Those are the things that the teams need to focus in on.
Yeah, and that's my concern with the Brewers is that not them not making the playoffs, because they will, not them not winning the division, that they will, but they're going to have good pitching in the postseason. But is it going to be enough? Scoring 2 runs every game or 3 runs every game and counting on like Jake Bauers to hit a 3-run home run. Like, that's not happening in the postseason. It's not. And that's why they're just so built for the regular season. But their bullpen, they moved Patrick back there too. But, Ashby, Uribe, McGill, 7, 8, 9. This is not Mason Miller. I understand that. It's not Aroldis Chapman. I understand that. But all you got to do is take a look at the stats. The Brewers win the majority of their games late in games. So there's no question that we could be headed toward that team doing something, I would say, in the next 10 days or so. All right, we got to take a quick break here on Game Time Decisions. When we come back next, it is the news that we are all waiting for in the National Basketball Association. Free agency has come and gone, and there's only one player left that is still unsigned, but it is the talking point right now in sports, and that is LeBron James going to sign with someone? Because as of right now, he's still sitting out there as a free agent. It seemed like there was a chance that maybe he would sign quick and just make a decision. I know the NBA has said that they're waiting for him to make a decision so they could set the schedules. Is it going to be Miami? Is it going to be Cleveland, Golden State, somewhere else? We'll take a look at the latest odds, where LeBron James may end up, because I have a feeling by the time we do tomorrow's show, we could get an answer. You're watching Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish along with Tom Vecchio as we get you ready for all the big games in baseball coming up at 6:40 Eastern. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on Sports Grid as we get closer to first pitch in baseball. Tom and I have not hit any discussion in the National Basketball Association. Why? Number one, I don't think it's imperative to do in the month of July, but we do have arguably the best or second best player in the history of the NBA. For me, it's the second best, by the way. I still have Michael Jordan number one. But LeBron James says he's going to play next year, Tom, and he's going to play somewhere to be determined. He was at the Fanatics Fest over the weekend, did not give any indication as to which way it would go. Pat Riley was on Dan Le Batard's show today and said that he's waiting for a decision like everybody else. He's not asking his agent, Rich Paul, or anything. He's just waiting. There are as many opposite reports. It almost feels like the first decision that LeBron made when he shocked everybody and went to Miami, which is, some people think Miami. The prediction markets say Miami, by the way. There are others that say Cleveland. There are others that say Golden State. There are other, and by the way, somehow Philadelphia is in the mix here. Wouldn't that you know what, Tom? That's probably where he's going to go, Philadelphia, because it's the one team that nobody is really focused in on. But it does seem it's either Miami, Golden State, Cleveland, Philadelphia. Am I missing a team, guys, or are those the four teams being discussed?
I would say that's what it is. He did allude to the 76ers over the weekend at Fanatics Fest, as you mentioned. He did use the phrase "trust the process." If everyone saw that clip, it obviously gets people excited, especially Philly fans, after they move off of the Paul George contract. They bring in Jaylen Brown. This is, as you've also mentioned, this is holding up the NBA schedule, because regardless of where he goes, regardless of people think, oh, he's obviously at not just the back nine, but the last few holes of his career, this impacts viewership for opening night, for Christmas Day, for all these things that Adam Silver alluded to. So ultimately, I think he's going to end up in Miami. That's my just personal gut instinct on the same rumors that everyone else is saying. I think he's just going to end up in Miami.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're following, these breadcrumbs that don't really add up. I'm not sure, because, look, the last time LeBron did this, Tom, I don't know how close you were to following it, but I was working for a local radio station in Miami at the time, and I was on the radio for the decision, and we all were in Miami thinking it was not going to be Miami. None of us did. Everyone thought it was going to be Cleveland. When he left Cleveland, we thought, I don't even remember where we thought it was going to be, but we definitely did not think that it was going to be the Heat. And then they had this huge press conference. It was like WWF style. I went to that. I broadcast live from that, where they introduced him, and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade had returned, and it was the big three. And it was shocking. And I think equally shocking, Tom, when LeBron left Miami to go back to Cleveland, and then he won a championship there. So I guess the point that I would make is, what am I rooting for? Of course, I'm rooting for Miami. The best scenario. I want more sports here, better things here where I live. You see Lone Depot Park behind me, well, the other side behind me, and then the arena is right over here. I don't mind that at all. But I kind of feel like we're going to get surprised by him. I don't think it's going to be Sacramento, Tom. I'm not saying that, or Utah. I'm just saying that with this particular individual, he's surprised us so many different times. I wonder if he's got one more up his sleeve this time too.
Yeah, the quotes that we've seen from him, or we've heard from him, what he said, specifically to quote, I want to compete at a high level. I want to join a franchise that shares the same models as myself. And that's like practicing championship habits every day. So, that could allude to a number of different things. And whether it's the Heat, because we have seen them, compete in the championship just a few years ago, whether it's the Golden State Warriors, as we have seen them constantly in the postseason outside of this most recent year, but they have obviously a championship pedigree. I don't know. I would say it's the Heat, then it's the Cavaliers for me as the top two. I think those would be the number one, number two, and then I think Golden State would be three.
What's interesting is his former teammate on social media, Chris Bosh, went on today and said that he should sign with the Heat as well. And it does feel like that's, the potential direction as to where it could go. But, this guy wouldn't shock me to see him say, you know what, I loved it in LA so much, but I'm going to go to the Clippers. This is just the guy that is on an island with making all these decisions. And I think LeBron's career and his legacy is going to be more for this stuff than it is. Well, I mean, he's one of the greatest players ever. I shouldn't say that. 70% for him as a player, 30% for all these moves that he's made, moving around and winning championships with different teams. I think people will simply remember that about him as well. All right, we'll take a quick time out here on Game Time Decisions. When we come back next, Kyle Soppe will join us. He's got some picks in baseball and also the WNBA tonight. That's right, their season in full swing as well. We'll be back on GTD right after these quick messages, so make sure you stay with us here on the grid on this Monday night. We'll be back right after these quick messages, right after this. Welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish along with Tom Vecchio, and fun to catch up with Kyle Soppe, who joins us now. He's also weighs in on some fun picks as well. Kyle, before we get to some picks today and some baseball and some basketball and maybe some golf, you never know. Kyle, what did you think of the World Cup finale yesterday? Man, like a lot of varying opinions. Most people saying the World Cup was awesome. I'm hearing some people say yesterday ruined it with just such a boring finale. Then I hear people yelling back saying, well, did you watch Saturday? That match was incredible. What did you make of the whole thing?
I'm kind of with the latter there. Anybody who's saying that ruined a month worth of good play is kind of crazy to me. We saw two of the best teams in the country. We are in the world. We saw the best team win, which is at the end of the day is what we all kind of look for. Was it overly exciting? No, but Spain had a ton of good chances. Like you said, Saturday. I think if that game happens without Saturday having 10 goals scored, we probably view it a little differently. So it gets skewed because of that. I enjoy high-level competition. That's what we saw in the finale. So I don't have any complaints with it. We had two of the best playing for the ultimate prize. That's what we spent a month trying to get.
Now, if we turn to tonight's slate for the MLB, you got a couple of picks, and you are going against not one of the hottest teams in baseball. You were going against the hottest team in baseball, the Boston Red Sox. You like their winning streak to finally end tonight.
Yeah, I mean, not just the hottest team in baseball. This is the hottest team in professional sports that we've seen for a while. I mean, you guys were just going over the LeBron James saga. They're basically undefeated since that started, which is kind of crazy to think about because it kind of feels like it's dominated our lives for the better part of a month. It's only been a few weeks. But still, I do think Boston goes down tonight to Baltimore. Their last loss was in a Tolly start. Guess who's on the mound tonight? At home against a high exit velocity team in the O's here. That's Tolly. I'm not too concerned about him, but on the other side, Shane Baz is just kind of doing his thing here. When he's been able to elevate the chase rate, which even during this win streak is something Boston's fallen vulnerable to, he's dominated. His ERA's dropped more than a full run in those spots. He's great in 2-strike counts. And this Boston team, they're ultra aggressive. So is Baltimore, which I think they can win out here. The wind is pushing out at Fenway, so that puts a fly ball pitcher in a little bit of a spot here. He's got a 260 BABIP. Totally does this season. I think we see that regress. Give me the O's, and maybe even they cover 1.5 on the alternate line. I'm not going to go that far. The streak ends tonight. Boston loses.
Wow. Well, Kyle, if he's with us tomorrow night, not going to let him go against the Red Sox if the Red Sox win tonight. Okay, you got to stick with the trend. Maybe you'll break the trend. If not, you got to stick with it. Okay, so another matchup here tonight: Cardinals and Angels. Cardinals seemingly are in a position maybe to make the postseason. Angels are looking forward to going golf at some point soon. Who do you like in this matchup tonight? Would it be the Cardinals, who have been opportunistic all season long, or the Angels, who are just trying to get this thing over with, as they say?
Yeah, give me the motivated team here with a Kyle on the mound. What's not to like there? I'm impartial to a good first name, and that's what we got going here. Kyle Leahy. I don't think people really noticed that he's only given up 1 earned run over the last month. He's been great, and the only flaw he's really had is kind of an elevated walk rate at times here. But over the last month, the Angels have the highest whiff rate in all of baseball, so I'm not too worried about the walks piling up. I think he gets it done for 4 to 5 innings. You're talking about a guy that got elevated from the bullpen, so he's probably not throwing 100 pitches, but I think he can get through 4 or 5 solids. So give me basically even money on the Cards, or outright over the first 5 innings of this one tonight.
All right, now if we flip things over to the WNBA, you're looking to back 2 underdogs tonight, both on the spread, but they both have bad records overall, but they're actually both good against the spread. Where are you looking tonight in the WNBA?
Yeah, they have terrible records outright. Don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing that these teams are really all that good, but I mean, you're talking almost double digits to get both of these home teams. That's a lot to swallow, and we've kind of seen it played out over time this season. Home teams catching at least 8 points in the W this season, 11-6 against the spread, which is good enough for me to back as it is. If you remove kind of a dumpster fire at times in Portland, that record in those games moves to 8-3 against the spread. We get it in 2 spots today with Toronto and Seattle. I'll take all the points you're willing to give me. It's right around 10 points in both games. Marina Mabry, specifically if we're looking for a single player to isolate in this spot for Toronto, she has been cooking over the last month. I'm willing to back that against an Aces team that really doesn't play a lot of defense. So I'll take the points, thinking that both these games are pretty competitive down the stretch. I don't need a winner. I just need to cover the number, and I think that's what we get in a couple of close games.
Tempo plus 11.5, Storm plus 9.5. You saw Kyle's card, Orioles and Cardinals. Those are the other 2. I want to go to the big series of the week here, guys, and that is the Phillies and Dodgers. Two questions I have before we start here. I think Tom brought up a point, Kyle, earlier in the show about the Yankees being plus money. You almost never see the Dodgers plus money, and they are tonight as they take on the Philadelphia Phillies. And they also announced that Shohei Ohtani will not be pitching. It sounds like anytime soon. I don't want to get specific because I don't know the answer tonight. Emmett Sheehan will start for L.A. They're going to have to piece together now that starting rotation until they get Snell and some other pitchers back in return. Do you think that LA is fine? Do you think this big lead holds? Do you like them this week in the series against Philadelphia? Philadelphia's got their big guns going in terms of pitching too.
Yeah, the big guns scare me specifically for this one. Generally speaking, I kind of have 2 rules in betting baseball. You don't bet against the Dodgers, and you kind of don't bet against Christopher Sanchez. So both worlds collide. I'm not taking this game tonight as far as the total or money line or anything like that's concerned. I'm going to go under 2.5 runs through the first 3 innings, thinking that both teams take a little bit of time to find their footing, but I'd be shocked if you're worried about the Dodgers long-term here. I get that we just went through in a whole NBA season where I told you the same thing about the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then they come up short. I'll trust the process here. They are the Thunder of baseball. They're better than everybody else. They're going to play this Ohtani thing close to the vest, and they should. They've got a big lead, and they're going to be the best team come the postseason. So I'm not worried long-term at all about them. In the series, you could sell me on the Phillies the way the rotations break out, but I'm not too worried about them long-term.
Now, as we approach the trade deadline in MLB, are you looking to get down any action on any futures on any teams? Do you dabble in the future market pre-trade deadline, expecting teams to make big moves? Therefore, you have a better number after the moves come through. Do you have any action on any MLB futures?
I took the Rays to win the AL about a month ago, so I'm kind of liking where I sit there. But as far as trying to hedge and beat the market ahead of the trade deadline, I try to not get ahead of that when it comes to really any sport. Basically, I'm going to try to beat the books, which are 100 times smarter than me more often than not, in like little niche spots. Like I'm taking under the Dodgers first 3 innings, things like that. But I'm willing to bet that DraftKings, FanDuel, those sporting books that have millions of dollars of resources have a better feel for what's going to happen at the trade deadline than some guy in his basement in Connecticut. So I'm not going to try to get ahead of them in that game. I'm going to stay in my own lane here and play the cards that are in front of me, play what's dealt. I'll get involved in the futures market after the deadline when I know what these rosters look like.
No basement in Connecticut, but how about a garage in Florida? Will that do?
That'll do.
I can go with
You got good ventilation, that'll work.
I could go with the garage. Nice air conditioning unit I got here too. Kyle Soppe is with us here as we get ready to wrap things up. Okay, real quick, let's go to Guardians and Twins. That's the first game starting here, so it's our last shot to get this one in. Joe Ryan, -132. Tanner Bybee pitches for Cleveland. I like Cleveland tonight, Kyle. I like the way that Bybee has pitched. He just hasn't gotten the run support. I know Jose Ramirez is not back yet. What makes the Twins a -130 road favorite here? A little bizarre for me.
I think it's the man with 2 first names. Joe Ryan hasn't lost a start this month. He's just a guy I'm comfortable backing. I think he has an elevated floor compared to Bybee, who I think is a little more up and down, a little more variant. If you're not going to get that run support, that puts him in a little bit of trouble. Joe Ryan's only given up 2 runs in July so far. I think you kind of see that. We could have a pitcher's duel. If I had to gamble, I'd be on the other side. Craig, maybe we get a little heads-up action here. I'll take Minnesota in this one.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow, maybe, Kyle, and we'll see how things shake out. Kyle tonight likes the streak to end in Boston.
Yes,
I'm on the other one, and he likes Minnesota, and I'm on the other one there, but Kyle's much better at this than I am. So here's his card. Orioles +130, Cardinals first 5, and then you must take his word for it and not mine because WNBA is not my thing. So he likes the tempo tonight +11.5, Storm tonight +9.5. I'm looking at that card. I'm seeing a 3-1 night for Kyle. That's my prediction.
I'll take it.
All right.
I'll take it.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing on the card tonight. A split in the WNBA and then 2 wins in the baseball. I'm hoping for your Orioles to win, or otherwise you get crap from me on the show tomorrow. If not, that's what you get.
Okay. I'll be here.
All right,
I'll
Kyle.
wear it.
You don't wear crap. It doesn't smell good. See you tomorrow.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're much further down the list at only 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Skubal, and that's going to be something that we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. First pitch being thrown out here between the Minnesota Twins and Cleveland Guardians. That begins the slate today, and naturally a lot of other games to go over here as we get toward the 7 p.m. hour. And then, of course, we will turn it over tonight. Guys, who's hosting tonight, the in-game live program tonight? Kevin Walsh and Gabe Morency will be on the call tonight for 2 hours, so they have you here. The only thing, Tom, that I will miss is for the last month, I got to know the World Cup very well. I was on SportsGrid, so many different shows doing the World Cup with Joe Ranieri and Gabe and some others as well. That I mean, that's the one good thing sometimes about being in this business and broadcasting and sports media is that sometimes you're put in uncomfortable situations. Look, I've been with SportsGrid 8 years now, I think, between that and fantasy. And I have never gone live during a soccer match. And what you have to learn, what I've learned through that, it's good because I do baseball all the time, is that it's so slow that you have to like figure out and really learn the game to understand the strategies. That was really a big education moment or month, I would say, for me over the past month. And that's what I enjoyed the most.
Okay. I would say, partly the same for me. I do regularly bet the EPL specifically. I don't dabble too much in the Bundesliga or, Serie A or La Liga. I mainly bet the EPL, and that's really for, the simplest way to put it is like, listen, it's live at 7:30 or 8 in the morning on Saturdays, and there's nothing else live at that point. So I do enjoy betting the EPL. So, understanding the game of soccer at a club level, at a high club level versus an international level is something that I was, had to come accustomed to as well. Watching it a couple of years ago, the World Cup, that is, when it was in Qatar, was fun, but it wasn't as heavy as a betting thing for me. So transitioning of betting club football to the international level is something that, took a little bit of time, but I found very rewarding. I'm going to continue to bet the EPL every week as I did, last season, and I'm ready for it to start in a couple of weeks. The thing that I would ask you is, what sport haven't you done or are you not comfortable with doing? Have you been live for hockey? Have you been live for basketball?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So without a doubt, I can always admit when there's something new for me because I think that it always makes me better. And so when I was approached about doing it and doing live broadcasting during the soccer matches, I just kind of said, well, you know what? I'm going to prepare like I prepare for anything else and see if I can make the most of it. And I feel like I did. The one thing that did catch me by surprise, the uncomfortable level of broadcasting while nothing is happening. Like in a baseball game, there's a pitch and there's another pitch. And in hockey, there's constant action. It's much harder to create conversation if you don't know all the players on the countries in the World Cup. I mean, club may be a little bit easier because they're playing with each other all the time. And then you could watch the same team play 5-6 times, and then you go on the air and you're like, okay, I've seen this before. It was just totally new for me doing that. So that's the first part. I don't know if that answered your question. So hockey would be uncomfortable, but I don't think it would be as uncomfortable because I think that's a quick fix. I've watched hockey all my life. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's not in my top 3 or my top 4. But if I was to come on as an example for 2 hours here on SportsGrid and do the Stanley Cup Finals, I think I could hold my own because I know exactly what I'm watching. The teams have played basically with the same players most of the year, so you do your research and you prepare for that as well. I would say that the toughest thing in broadcasting that I've just simply experienced and this is, I'm 52, so I've done it all, is doing live radio, not talk show radio, but live radio play-by-play or color, because you can't have dead air, Tom. Like, we could sit here on a TV show, we could think about things, I could go to you could go back to me, but on the radio, people are waiting for your next word. And if those words don't make sense, you're not going to do a good job. So to me, that is uncomfortable, but it also makes you sharper on broadcasting too. Like when I come off doing Marlins broadcasts on radio and I come back here on SportsGrid, like, I am as sharp as I have ever been, because I know that the words have just come out over the last week or two. So I don't know if that adds up or makes sense and how we got into broadcasting, but
no, it does. I think the point you made at the beginning of, essentially knowing what you don't know is always important. If you're unfamiliar with something, you got to say that, but you also just got to prepare as best as you can for whatever it may be. So, we are underway. If we're going to, change the topic to what we have, it's top of the first. We have the Twins, the guards, they're in play right now. Top of the first, it's 2 outs. Bybee going up against Josh Bell right now. No runs across the board. We've seen the guards flip to -104. They got 1 runner on. I will say, if you're rooting in a Yurfee or a Nerfee, you obviously want to see one thing or another. But 2 outs in the top of the first. Bybee looks to be cruising thus far.
Can I ask you something before we get to the next game here? I mean, are these first run bets, are they the stupidest bets of all time? Honestly, like, what goes into trying to handicap that? I've never done that in my life, and it seems like it's on social media. It's like become popular. Like, is it just a quick fix or something to win or lose early, like a coin flip?
Yeah, I don't bet Yurfee Nerfies. I do think it's just a quick fix, and I think people evaluate them incorrectly, where they evaluate things looking backwards. They're saying, oh, this pitcher has allowed, this pitcher is a Nerfie pitcher in 10 of his last 15 starts, whatever it is. But that's not accounting for today's matchup. And, frankly, I have a tough time taking Nerfies to no run, because that means you're fading Aaron Judge when he's healthy. You're fading Ohtani. You're fading Kyle Schwarber. You're fading all it takes is one swing for you to lose a bet. I'd rather have one swing and win a bet, but I don't bet them regardless. I just think that it's too much of a variance, and I don't want to lose a bet one pitch into the game. I want to win one, but I'm just going to stay away regardless.
It's become popular in the last year, maybe two, and I just find it so silly. I don't know. I've never gotten into that. Okay, we got to take a quick break. We'll come back and wrap things up. I know that Kevin and Gabe are standing by. They can't wait to give you all the live baseball action, play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch here on SportsGrid. So no more broadcasting talk, just straight-up sports betting. We'll have that for you in 10 minutes. We'll be right back to wrap it up. Live action underway in Major League Baseball, as Tom said. Cleveland and Minnesota underway. Soon we'll have the next matchup. So let's dive into two more before we get out of here, Tom, real quick. Pirates and Yankees. Pittsburgh very much in the postseason mix. Really good starting pitching, good hitting as well. Ryan Weathers, as up and down as they come in baseball. You got to kind of check who the lineup is when Weathers is out there. Lefty pitching. Righties tend to get him. Lefties don't usually hit him at all. He can pitch 6 innings, strike out 10. He can pitch 4 innings and give up 4 runs and be out of the game. Which one do you think it is tonight against Pittsburgh?
Man, I think it's somewhere going to fall in the middle. He's going to give up 4 runs. He may strike out 6, but I would not be backing the Yankees. Even though it's a very fair price and one of the best prices you'll get on the Yankees at home, they just do not win at home. The bullpen's a little bit taxed. So, Pirates minus 104. I think Weathers has a okay starting. He gives up 3 or 4 over 5.
Rapid fire, we continue. Tampa Bay, one of the best home teams in baseball, but ran into the buzzsaw that are the Boston Red Sox. They are happy to get out of there, but are they happy to be in Toronto? Lots of trade rumors coming down with the Blue Jays today, basically saying that they got 6 or 7 days to win almost every game, Tom. It would appear the Blue Jays need to make a massive turn here, or could they move Gossman? Could they move George Springer? I mean, they have a lot of assets that other teams could use, but it's kind of hard to sell the Toronto fans that. What a great way it would be for them to get back on track this week against Tampa Bay. But, Tom, I got to believe for the Blue Jays to still be in this thing in 10 days, they got to take 2 out of 3 from Tampa Bay. I mean, there's no getting around this. They lose this series. I think that's it.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 at a minimum. Tonight's game is really, really tough. A part of me wants to fade Cease and, what has become an increasingly larger line, which was minus 160 or so a little while ago. It's up to minus 178. A part of me wants to take the Rays and get plus 150 and be like, of course, tomorrow morning, wake up and like, of course the Rays won. They're a great team. The Blue Jays haven't been great. And you faded an AL Cy Young candidate. You get plus 150, which is a pretty darn good price on the Rays.
The Milwaukee Brewers are the biggest favorite tonight in Major League Baseball. They're minus 200. Jacob Mizorowski will make his first start pre-All-Star break. Remember, he didn't pitch in the All-Star game, and they scratched him on that Sunday, and they held him out this weekend against Miami. They decided to start him tonight against the New York Mets. Milwaukee is minus 205. The total is 7.5. Strikeouts tonight. Miz usually strikes out between 8 and 10. And so where did they put the line? Between 8 and 9. 8.5 strikeouts with a heavy lean on the over. Plus 102 on the under. I think this is the one starter tonight that we'll all be keeping a close eye on to see whether or not Mizorowski's 100% healthy. Whether or not there was something to skipping him last time out. Do you think that that is the case, Tom? I guess we'll find out together in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything significantly wrong with Mizorowski. I think it's just the volume of innings becoming an issue where he's exceeded his last year's total far and above. And knowing that there's still 2 full months left of the regular season, I believe it was kind of, as we alluded to with Jacob deGrom, they're just trying to get out ahead of it. They're trying, if they can skip a start and they have a 6-game cushion, they can afford to do that. If they were in the tight division race and they were tied with the Cubs, I don't know if they would be doing that. But I have a tough time backing the Brewers at minus 210. I would look to back Mizorowski, but not the Brewers, if that makes sense.
You said Seattle is a team that you wouldn't back based on the way that they're playing. They've been a confusing team. The Reds have been confusing to me, too. I feel like they have a talented team. Sal Stewart's got 20 home runs. You kidding me? And the Reds signed Chase Burns to this long-term extension. What in the world are they doing so far under 500? Strange year. Great manager, too. Terry Francona. They go to Seattle tonight. Mariners on paper the better team. We've said that for 100 games already, Tom. They're still under 500 as we sit here in July.
Yeah, it's tough to back the Mariners, to continuously back a team that underperforms. Frankly, I would lean towards the under on this game, if anything. You think Kirby goes out there and does his thing. The Mariners just don't end up hitting, even though Andrew Abbott's got some pretty bad underlying numbers. And then, surprise, surprise, one of the teams wins the game 2-1, 3-2, whatever it might be. And maybe the Reds get their hopes up. Maybe the Mariners get their hopes up, but I just do not see this as high scoring.
Arizona Diamondbacks have jumped back into the playoff position. If you look over on Fangraphs, their odds have been on the rise since the All-Star break and beyond. They're playing good baseball. The A's broke that 9-game losing streak. Finally, they got themselves a win. They fired their pitching coach. Things are headed in the other direction for the A's. They'll be sellers. Total 9.5 tonight. Arizona minus 148. Tom, you said it best earlier. These are the games on the schedule. Arizona's got to win if they're going to make the postseason.
Yeah, this is a pivotal series for the Diamondbacks because if they truly want to be buyers at the deadline, they got to be taking 2 out of 3. And also just the dynamic of the NL across the board. There are other teams that are in spots to lose games that they are chasing down. So I specifically like Shane Langoliers in this game going up against Mitch Bradvick, his 3rd ever MLB start. Langoliers 2+ HRR tonight, -139.
Tom, great stuff. Thanks for filling in today. I know a late pinch hit for you, so thanks for doing it. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you on Sunday for Pro Baseball Today.
Yeah, a little bit of a spot start, as they say, but I'm always ready to talk some baseball.
Tom Vecchio with us here tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow night with Joe Ranieri. Up next, Kevin Walsh and Gabe. They got you covered through all the baseball action, so make sure you stay tuned. I'll see you tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern, for our next edition of Game Time Decisions. Thanks again to Chris and Tommy, our producers as well.